Hello everyone and welcome back to our geography class for class 9. If you all remember correctly, in my previous offline class, I've already started a new chapter, that is chapter number 15, and the name of the chapter is humidity. Okay, I've already spoken in detailed manner about the introductory part of humidity. Okay, you ought to note down the definition of humidity, then you ought to note down the distinction between your absolute humidity and your relative humidity. Then we also dealt with your condensation, its definition, your different forms of condensation which are there in your syllabus. Okay, you ought to throw some light on the first form of condensation, that is your clouds, and under your clouds you ought to be aware about the different kinds of your clouds, and from that clouds you should be knowing as to which cloud is an example of your rain-bearing cloud. Apart from that, the other forms of condensation that we discussed in detailed manner was your dew, your frost, your fog and your mist. Now in my today's lesson, I'm going to deal with the last part here in this chapter, and that is your precipitation. So today we will be talking about your different forms of precipitation, and under your different forms, the major form of precipitation is your rainfall. And under your rainfall, we will be talking about your three major types of your rainfall. That is your relief rainfall, also termed as your orographic type of rainfall. Second one is your convectional rainfall, and the last one is your cyclonic and your frontal rainfall. So these are the topics that I'm going to explain to you all in my today's class. Okay, so let's talk about precipitation. What do you mean by precipitation? You ought to be aware about the definition of the term precipitation. Now, precipitation is very, very important part. It is considered to be one important aspect of your climatic factors. So you ought to be aware about the definition of precipitation first. So if you have to look into that topic, you can turn to page number 120 there in your textbook. So what is precipitation? The process by which the products of condensation, that is your water droplets, ice crystals or your sleet, fall on the ground, and they are termed as your precipitation. So we already spoke about the process of your condensation in our previous part. We also spoke about your humidity, how your process of evaporation is increasing your humidity there in the atmosphere. We also highlighted about the condensation. So after the process of your condensation, the final product that falls on the earth's surface is termed as your precipitation. So they are falling on the earth's surface in the form of your water droplets, in the form of your ice crystals, in the form of your sleet. So they fall on the earth's surface, and that is termed as your precipitation. Rainfall, snowfall, your drizzle, that is your light showers of your rainfall, your sleet and your hail are your chief forms of precipitation. But amongst all those characteristics, you ought to be aware about the three major forms of precipitation. The primary one is your rainfall, which is basically been followed by your snowfall, and the last one you have your hailstones. So amongst all the forms of your precipitation, the three primary forms of precipitation, your rainfall, snowfall and your hailstones. Please go through that in examination time. They might ask you a short type question asking you to talk about your three major forms of precipitation. Now precipitation takes place only when tiny particles of your water join together to form your large size particles, which becomes too heavy to remain in suspension there in the clouds. So when your cloud, automatically when your dew point is basically been reached, when your full saturation point is there, so when your clouds are unable to bear that moisture there in the atmosphere, it basically releases out that moisture in the form of your different forms of your precipitation. Is that clear? Then we talk about the three major forms I've already highlighted: rainfall, snowfall and your hailstones. But the primary one, which is very, very common, which is received by almost all the regions there in the world, maximum region or your major regions there in the world, receives this form of precipitation, and that is termed as your rainfall. So rainfall is your first form of precipitation. It is the most common form of precipitation. Raindrops of smaller sizes and less intensity is termed as your rainfall. So you might be having your heavy rainfall, heavy downpours, or else your rainfall in the form of your light showers. They are termed as your drizzle. So your drizzle, your rainfall, your heavy downpours all comes under the category of your first major form of your precipitation, that is your rainfall. Second one is your snowfall. Now all regions does not receive snowfall as a major form of your precipitation. Generally those areas at a higher altitude, okay, having a low temperature, instead of your rainfall, they receive snowfall as your form of precipitation because of your cold climatic condition prevailing there in that region, or your low temperature prevailing there in that region. So in geography, when you talk about the relationship between your temperature and an altitude, there is an inverse relationship that has basically been highlighted here. As you climb up the altitude, there is a fall in your temperature. That's the reason why your regions there are at a higher altitude. There, your extreme low temperature, sometimes your freezing temperature are prevalent there. So there you don't receive rainfall as a form of precipitation. So there the most common form of precipitation that you experience is your snowfall as a major form of precipitation. So regions there are your lower latitudes you take into account. Sorry, not lower latitudes, regions there are your higher latitudes and your higher altitude region. Because of your cold climatic condition or your low temperature prevailing there, you receive snowfall as a form of precipitation. So your second important form of precipitation is your snowfall. Now water droplets which rises high and freeze on the account of your drop in your temperature, because of your relationship that is there between your height and your temperature. Relationship that is there between your altitude and your temperature. As you climb up the height, as you climb up the altitude, there is a fall in your temperature. Snowfall usually occurs in winter season in your cold climate or your high mountainous region. So snowfall is a major form of precipitation that is experienced during your winter season because of your low temperature prevailing there in that region, or in a region at your higher altitude, because in your higher altitude your temperature is comparatively very low there. So the most common form of precipitation that you receive at your higher altitude is your snowfall form of precipitation. And the third one is your hailstones. Okay, sometimes vertical air currents may push water droplets or your ice particles higher above. Okay, so vertical air currents that are basically moving there, whatever your water droplets that are there in the atmosphere and your ice particles that are there in the atmosphere, they're basically been pushed higher above. Okay, now they form into your solid ice and fall on the earth's surface in the form of your hail or your hailstones. Hailstones are considered to be very negative. They are considered to be very destructive in nature because they cause greater damage to your crops. So you hear about most of the farmers how they are basically been impacted by your hailstones because they are your solid ice particles. So when they fall on the earth's surface in the form of your precipitation, they are responsible for dismantling. They are responsible for damaging or destroying your entire agriculture production that is thriving there in that region. So they are your three forms of precipitation. Amongst all these forms, the major form of your precipitation is your rainfall. That's the reason why the last topic that is there in this chapter is your types of rainfall. So rainfall is further classified under your three major types. First one is your relief, second one is your convectional, and third one is your cyclonic rainfall. So let's talk about the types of rainfall. Now types of rainfall, deposition of moisture from the atmosphere on the earth's surface is termed as your precipitation, and the most common or the most primary form of precipitation is your rainfall. Now one of the forms of precipitation is your rainfall. The three types of cooling of your air produces three different types of your rainfall. They are your relief type of rainfall, also termed as your orographic type of rainfall. So your relief type of rainfall is also referred to as your orographic type of your rainfall, because your relief feature or your physical feature, especially your presence of your mountain, plays a very important role, basically allowing that region to experience your relief type of your rainfall. Second one, convectional, and last one, your cyclonic or your frontal rainfall. So let me first deal in detail about the relief type of your rainfall. So in examination time, they might ask you, explain orographic type of rainfall. So what is orographic type of rainfall? Your relief type of your rainfall. And what happens? How is your rainfall occurring there in that region? How does your relief feature or your physical feature or your presence of your mountainous region plays an important role for your occurrence of your rainfall there in that region? So let's talk about that in detail. Relief rainfall is also known as your orographic type of rainfall. Now it occurs from your cooling of your warm moist air, which basically rises or ascends up the mountain barrier, lying in your direction of the prevailing wind. The presence of your mountain causes humid air to rise. The sudden ascent or your sudden rise causes cooling of your air, leading to condensation and your precipitation. Since it is caused by your relief of a land, that is the presence of your mountainous region, that is the relief feature that is present here, it is termed as your relief rainfall. On descending on the leeward side, so under your relief type of a rainfall, you just ought to be aware about the presence of your mountainous region. So I'm rubbing this part, I'm showing you all how this relief type of your rainfall is occurring there in that region. So let me throw some light here. So relief here means your presence of your relief feature, especially your mountainous region. So this is a mountain, okay. Supposingly if your wind is blowing from this direction, this side is considered to be your windward side. Okay, this side is considered to be your windward side, and this side is considered to be your leeward side or your rain shadow area. So generally what happens is that your relief type of a rainfall on your windward side, your moisture laden wind, when they are ascending upwards, they are responsible for bringing about rainfall there because of the process of condensation that is taking place. Whereas on the leeward side, when your air is moving downwards, because of the changes that is taking place, your leeward side or your rain shadow area is getting no rainfall or receiving very little rainfall. So the presence of this relief feature, now this is a relief feature here, this is a mountain, okay. So this is your relief feature that is present here. Now presence, R-E-L-I-E-F. So the presence of this relief feature, that is a mountainous feature, now that is responsible for determining the rainfall that is received more here on the windward side, less here on the leeward side. So when a region is receiving rainfall on the account of your presence of your physical features or your relief features, the type of your rainfall that we are emphasizing here is an example of your relief or your orographic type of rainfall. See, on descending on the leeward side, what happens? There is a decrease there in the altitude, you are going down, increases both your pressure and your temperature, leading your air to get compressed and warm. Consequently, the relative humidity drops there and there is evaporation and no little precipitation that is received there in your rain shadow area. For example, the monsoon wind, while ascending your Western Ghats, causes your rainfall on the windward side. That's the reason why your Malabar coast region and all, that happens to fall under the category of your windward side of your southwest monsoon wind. So Western Ghat is a mountain range. The windward side of your Western Ghat, you have your Malabar coast, your parts and parcel of your Kanara coast and all. So that is receiving more rainfall. Whereas in the northeast Himalayas, the Himalayan barrier makes the wind to shed the moisture more on the windward side, on the slopes facing your south. So you have your Garo Khasi Jaintia hill also located there in the northeastern part of India. Now your Cherrapunji and your Mausiram receives maximum amount of your rainfall, whereas Shillong, the capital city of the state of Meghalaya, receives less amount of your rainfall in comparison to your Cherrapunji and your Mausiram, because your Mausiram and your Cherrapunji, they are located on the windward side of your Garo Khasi Jaintia hill, whereas Shillong is located on the leeward side. That means the amount of rainfall that is received there on the windward side and leeward side is comparatively different. Very less or little or no rainfall is received there on the leeward side, whereas on the windward side more rainfall is received. So presence of your relief features, they are determining how much amount of your rainfall ought to be received there in that region. Similarly, other region receives orographic rainfall, including, so there are different regions there in the world, okay, where you talk about your relief feature playing an important role. So they have cited an example of an eastern Brazil, East China, southeastern United States. Orographic rainfall is especially heavy in your hot and your humid areas that are bounded by your tropical oceans, because when they are passing your ocean, your wind is carrying your moisture. And that moisture is basically been shed when you are hitting your relief feature or your mountainous region. Now in this region, there are regions of heavy rainfall, that is your rainfall between 200 centimeters and above. Okay, so all the regions that are receiving rainfall above 200 centimeters fall under those regions that is experiencing your heavy rainfall. Your moderate rainfall, that is between 100 to 200 centimeters, and your regions of very low or less rainfall, that is less than 25 centimeters, especially your arid regions that are there in the world, or your desertic regions that are there in the world. So they are your regions that falls under the category of your rain shadow area. So this is how your presence of relief features play a very important role in order to determine your type of rainfall that is received there in that region. So this is a very, very important topic under the category of your types of rainfall. Now the second type of your rainfall is your convectional rainfall. Okay, generally heavy downpours that you receive during your afternoon period, especially during 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Okay, this type of your rainfall is also referred to as your 4 o'clock rainfall or your 4 o'clock shower. Okay, now what happens, this rainfall is very, very common there in your equatorial region. As we all know, in your equatorial region, the temperature is very, very high. Because of that, the rapid evaporation is taking place during the daytime. And during the evening time period, because of your rapid evaporation followed by your process of condensation, your heavy showers of rainfall, heavy downpours are experienced during your evening period. So the type of rainfall that is taking place because of your high temperature, that is allowing rapid evaporation to take place during the daytime, allowing us to experience the type of rainfall. The type of rainfall that we are referring here is an example of your second type of your rainfall, that is your convectional rainfall. Remember students, your convectional rainfall is very, very common there in your equatorial region. So examination time, they can ask you all the question as to which region is receiving convectional type of rainfall on a regular basis. So it is your equatorial region. So let's talk about convectional rainfall. Now there is convectional rainfall in the equatorial regions that you have there in the world. The high temperature that is experienced there in the equatorial region because your direct rays of your sun is falling there on the equatorial belt. So your high temperature is there, that is leading to your rapid heating of your air. Your rapid evaporation is taking place. Such heated area rises in your convection currents. So they are rising upward in the form of your convection currents, leading to your development of your clouds at about 10 kilometers height above the ground level. Now ascending currents that are going upwards, the rising currents of your hot and your humid air causes condensation of your clouds, resulting in heavy rainfall. So convectional rainfall are never in the form of your drizzle. They're never in the form of your showers. You receive heavy downpour, heavy rainfall here in this type of your rainfall. Now this type of rainfall generally occur not in the morning time period. They generally occur during your evening time period. That is the reason why your convectional type of rainfall is known as your rainfall that is taking place in your afternoon, especially moving towards the evening time period. That is the reason why it is termed as your 4 o'clock rainfall or your 4 o'clock shower. Such rainfall is also accompanied by your thundering and your lightning, and that is one chief characteristics that ought to be associated with your convectional rainfall. A rainfall that is very, very heavy in nature, that has basically been associated with your thundering and your lightning. Name that rainfall. They might ask you that question. So the type of rainfall that is highlighted here with this characteristics is an example of your convectional rainfall. So convectional rainfall occurs daily on a regular basis there in your equatorial region, and they receive an annual rainfall that is more than 200 centimeters. So you all understood as to why your equatorial belt is considered to be a region of your heavy rainfall above 200 centimeters. It is basically because of your occurrence of your convectional type of rainfall. The second rainfall, which is important and which is there in your syllabus. Now the last kind of your rainfall is termed as your cyclonic rainfall, also termed as your frontal rainfall. So your depressions and your cyclones that are taking place, when they are responsible for causing your rainfall, the type of rainfall that has basically been highlighted here falls under the category of your cyclonic or your frontal rainfall. So let's talk about it, the last topic here in this chapter. Now this type of rainfall is caused by your cyclones, in your tropical latitudes. So you have your temperate latitudes, you have your tropical latitudes. Now in your tropical latitudes, when your cyclones are taking place, and the cyclones are responsible for causing your rainfall, the type of rainfall that we are referring here is an example of your cyclonic rainfall. And depressions are taking place in your temperate latitudes or your mid latitude. That means in your tropical region, your cyclones are occurring. And that are responsible for bringing about your heavy rainfall there in the region. Whereas in your middle latitude, your mid latitudes and your temperate region, your depressions are taking place, and the depressions are responsible for bringing about your few showers of rainfall. But the rainfall is caused here, either your heavy rainfall or your few showers of your rainfall, and the type of rainfall that is created here in your tropical, temperate and your mid latitude region because of your cyclones and your depressions that are basically being created then in that region falls under the category of your cyclonic and your frontal rainfall, irrespective of your relief or your convection. That means the relief factor is not playing a primary role here, or your convection currents that are moving upwards here under your convectional rainfall, irrespective of what relief feature that is present there in the region, irrespective of how the convection currents are going, either it's going upwards, either it's going downwards, irrespective of that, your depressions and your cyclones are created there in the region. Now it is caused. How is this cyclonic rainfall caused? So when it is caused by your convergence or your meeting of the two different air masses that is having a different amount of your temperature and your different physical features. So temperature is different here. Okay, physical features are comparatively different here. So when it is meeting, so when they are converging, your two air masses, when they are converging, what happens? The warm and the cold air mass, when they confront each other, the warmer air that is comparatively lighter generally climbs over your colder air. So if this is a warm air, this is your cold air. They are coming and converging. Warm air being light, what happens? They are basically climbing over your colder air. The boundary zone of this air masses are called your fronts. Hence the name frontal rainfall. The rising air is cooled while undergoing a frontal lift. How your warm air is climbing above your cold air. Now this causes precipitation in the form of your rainfall. So such precipitation or rainfall is called as your cyclonic and your frontal rainfall, and it's very, very heavy in your tropical cyclones. Or else in simple terms, you can take into account your rainfall that is caused by your cyclones there in your tropical latitude. They're comparatively heavy in nature. They bring about heavy rainfall. It lasts only for a few hours. Okay. Whereas your temperate depression that is taking place there in your temperate latitude or your mid latitude, okay, such as those in the Western Europe, the rainfall is much lighter, much weaker here, though it lasts for your several days. So they are in the form of your showers, they are in the form of your drizzle. So there it falls in the form of your continuous drizzle. So when your fronts that are playing a primary role, when your depressions and your cyclones that are originating in your tropical regions or your temperate regions, okay, so your convergence of your air masses, how your warm air currents are basically climbing above your cold air masses and all, how that is responsible for bringing about your rainfall, and the type of rainfall that they are bringing is an example of your cyclonic and your frontal rainfall. So with this, we also end our last topic here in this chapter, that is your types of rainfall. So these are your important topics that you also emphasize from this chapter, that is the humidity. It is a very, very short chapter, okay, just few topics are there under your reduced syllabus, so you just have to go through all those points. Is that clear from this chapter? So if you have any confusion, please feel free to contact me personally. Okay, so with this we end our chapter 15 also, that is your humidity. Thank you.